Hey, what's good, everybody? It's me, Weeb, here back with part 3 for What If Asta Was Meliodas' son. If you have not already, please make sure to slap that like button on this video, comment down below what you thought of the video after you've done watching it, as well as subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can see all future videos from me. Only about 0.39% of my viewers are actually people who are subscribed, so if you're part of that 61% and you want to, it's free, so feel free to hit the subscribe button. Before I get into this part, though, I did have a quick question that I wanted to ask you guys, kind of like a poll. If you could, go over to my community tab, which is on the right-hand side next to videos, and you should find a poll that I'm posting right after I post this. This poll will basically be me asking about whether or not you guys would be interested in watching other types of anime content on this channel, or if I should just post on my second channel. Mostly because I want to post other types of videos, because I like what I've got going on here. I posted a few, like what I love about anime and a Hunter x Hunter review, character analysis, but there's some other stuff and fun things I want to do, but I want your guys' opinion so I can see if you guys actually want to watch that. Anyhow, now that that's over with, we can finally get into the part for What If Asta Was Meliodas' son. This is a tale of ancient times, an era before the human and non-human worlds were forever divided. After many, many battles, the 7 deadly sins, an order of legendary knights, would be divided. Dragon Sin Meliodas and Princess Elizabeth would have a son in a faraway land, and his name was Asta. Asta would eventually attain his own grimoire and start his journey to become the Wizard King. We see Asta standing there before the captains, shocked that all of them raised their hands again. Should I choose the Golden Dawn? No, I don't want to copy Yuno. Damn it, he'd be thinking, as Asta would be looking inside his mind, thinking what is the right thing to do. He'd remember all the stories that Elizabeth would have told him about the 7 deadly sins, the magical knight order that his father had created, that had gone many journeys together with his mom, and had fought so many different bad guys. As he looks at all the groups, he'd be thinking, which one would be the best fit for me? As he's looking at all of them, he'd already realized that the royals were a no-go, and they'd already be against him merely for not being a royal, with quotations, since Asta's actually a royal on 2 fronts, being the grandson of the Demon King as well as the grandson of the Supreme Deity. Asta would look into each and every one of their eyes before he finally meets Yami's. When he looks at Yami, he sees something interesting in his eyes, this look of intense curiosity. Asta would gulp as he then decides that that's what he would pick. I choose the Black Bulls. This would be when Yuno would turn around shocked. All of the captains would be shocked, including Yami himself, not even thinking he had a chance. Asta would be sweating as you can see that the Silvas, the Silver Eagles, would already be upset as some of the squad members would be now cursing out Asta for choosing such a lower ranking Magic Knight squad. Asta would then proclaim that he's going to make the Black Bulls the #1 Magical Knight squad in the entire Clover Kingdom, and if he had to, he'd do it by himself. He would give Yami a smile, with Yami actually feeling that this kid's gonna be something else. We can already see some of the other captains thinking that Yami might be Asta's father, because why else would he choose such a low-ranking squad unless he had some relation to that trash? Besides, he didn't look like he came from the Clover Kingdom anyway. His hair color as well as Asta's general look just had something foreign emanating about him. Anyhow, the rest of the captains would be quite disappointed as they all wanted Asta a lot. Even some you could say more than Yuno. Yuno in his mind would be freaking out as he's thinking, why didn't Asta pick the Golden Dawn? Like, as if he made a mistake or something, since Yuno thinks that he screwed up now. As Asta would walk out of the stadium, with him deciding to meet up with the Black Bulls after the ending of everyone else being picked for their squads, Yuno would follow after him quite fast, as he then asks in a whispered hush, and also angry tone, Asta, what were you doing? You could have joined the Golden Dawn and we could have been in the same squad. Well, yeah, but that's your thing. I want to do my own thing, Asta would say simply as he's looking at Yuno. Yuno would fall backwards on himself as he now realizes how stupid Asta can be sometimes. Asta, you picked the lowest ranking Magic Knight squad when you had every captain wanting you, including the royals. That's a big feat, he would say. Well, you got the same thing, so it can't be that impressive. would cough as he then tells Asta that, hey, that was mean, with Asta giving him a wink and sticking his tongue out. Anyway, it'll be fine. Soon the Black Bulls will be on top as number 1, and then the Golden Dawn will be on bottom, he would say, with taking this as a challenge. Well, I won't let that happen so easily, would say. Then I guess it's a challenge, Asta would tell as the two would bump fists, with them then turning and walking in different directions. As we can see, the noble, who would now be having a major grudge against Asta, would try and intercept Asta in the restroom, just like we would have seen what would have happened to Asta in the original. This time, as Asta would enter the restroom, the noble trying to sneak behind him, Asta would be able to sense his magic, or more likely his source of magic, as he would turn around, his eye flashing seemingly red for almost a second. If you try anything, he would say, seemingly into nothing, open air, then I'll kill you, Asta would say, as he closes the door behind him. We then see the camera pan out to behind the wall on the other side, where we see the noble shivering as his eyes are now shaking with him gulping, as he then runs away, deciding that he doesn't want to risk it. Asta would finish his business as he then leaves the restroom, where he would then run to Yami, Fenrir, and Gordon. The three of them would then tell Asta that they'll be heading back to their camp now, and that if he wants to come with, then now's the time. Asta would be preparing to release his angel half as well as his wing, so that he can fly, when then Fenrir would open his hand as a portal would appear. Asta would stop as he looks forward amazed at this magic. Asta being surprised as he asks what that is, with Fenrir going on to explain what his portal and transportation magic works. Yami would laugh as he then says that Fenrir's also his personal ride, as he would then slap Fenrir on the back a few times. Fenrir obviously not looking too happy about it, with Fenrir then, along with Gordon, Asta, and Yami now walking into the portal, where they would then arrive back at the Black Bull's base. We can see it sitting there in the large stone castle-like area. Asta would be quite impressed, as this is his first time ever seeing any of the Magical Knight's bases, and as he looks around the area, seeing the forest surrounding it, he would be pretty shocked, as he's walking around, excited to walk through the door. As he runs up and opens the door, ready to meet the other members, suddenly a fireball comes blasting into his face. As a fireball comes crashing towards Asta's face, Asta would take it like a champ. As a flaming ball pierces right through Asta's face, Asta would take no damage, as the fireball would just sputter out, with Asta taking nothing physically or anything, as Asta would just taken the hit. Asta would proceed to walk in like nothing happened, with Yami whistling as he would watch that, with Magna not being an easy shot to throw off. We can see Magna and Luck chasing after each other, almost like they're playing a game of tag, as they're playing around in the Black Bull's base, destroying a ton of things. Asta would be super concerned as he then would ask Yami if that's really alright for them to do, as he then sees a chair burst into a million pieces. Yeah, this happens all the time, he would say, as another fireball comes flying towards them, with Yami catching it and throwing it away, telling Magna not to hit him with it. Magna would say, sorry boss, as he would then keep going after Luck. Luck, on the other hand, would be laughing as he's being chased around by Magna, with Luck having the obvious speed advantage. Hey, he would think as he sees a new guy. He looks strong, Luck would be thinking, as he then jumped down and asked if he wants to fight him. As Asta would see this gleam in Luck's eyes, he would hesitate for a second before saying he'd fight him any time, with Luck now jumping up and down, saying he wants to fight right now, right now, right now. Yami would push Luck back, saying to calm down with the new members. Magna would tell him to wait just a damn minute, as he says that he's going to give Asta an initiation trial, with him then jumping down from the ceiling, as he then holds up a fireball, telling Asta that if you really want to join the Black Bulls, then you're going to have to show me how strong you are. He would then walk outside, with Asta following sharp behind him. Asta would open his grimoire, and so would Magna, as he would then reveal his flaming bat and fireball. He would then tell Asta to get ready, and if he can hit this ball without dying, then he's definitely a member ready for the Black Bulls. As then we would see Magna trying to charge up his fireball, now making it much larger than the one that hit Asta beforehand. Asta would pull out Lost Vein this time, which he hasn't used for quite a bit, and he would notice that something about it was different. He could feel that there was something else within it now, some sort of the anti-magic that he's been feeling along his other two sources. He would decide this should work fine as he then holds up the blade, with him being the most comfortable with a short blade like this since that's what he had been using most of his life. With Asta telling Magna to come at him any time, this would be when Magna would throw the ball of flame. Asta would take the sword as he waits for the exact time. Full counter! As Asta would slap the ball of flame barely with the tip of the sword, suddenly the ball would stop midair as it began shooting back towards Magna. Magna would be shocked as he has no idea what's happening, as he is almost about to get hit by the fireball. Magna would be able to barely dodge out of the way as the fireball would then slam into the ground just behind where Magna's head used to be, as an explosion happens. Asta would ask if that satisfies him, with him then putting Lost Flame back into the grimoire. He would then close the grimoire and put it back to his side as he looks at Magna. Magna would give him a thumbs up, saying, "Damn, that he's pretty strong," asking what kind of magic that was, with Asta saying that it's his own magic. It's called Full Counter. It's a technique that allows me to use any blade of any sort and gives me the ability to reflect any attack, so long as it's offensive magic. If it's any kind of magic that's physically close or something that isn't a projectile, then I don't think I can really counter that, as Asta recalls the words that his mother had once told him. Magna would say that that's pretty cool, as he would then tell Asta that welcome to the Black Bulls. Vanessa, who had been watching this point, would then give Asta his new Black Bulls uniform, as well as change the headband that he had on to match the Black Bulls' signature. With Asta ecstatic about this, Asta would be practically jumping up and down with his extreme joy, as he would then be allowed to go and choose a room in the hideout that would be his and his alone. Asta would then run to the hideout as he thanks Captain Yami, as he then runs in, with the rest of the Black Bulls members thinking about this new member. A lot of them be staring at Yami, as we then see a few hours ago from Charlotte's perspective. Charlotte's the captain of the Blue Rose Knights, by the way. As we see Asta, a few hours beforehand that very same day, activate his dark half by using his demonic as well as his angelic side when he's flying. We can see the dark type of magic that is surrounding him, and all the captains had begun discussing if he had dark magic, which was extremely rare. Charlotte would immediately be looking at Yami as she thinks in her head that he might have a kid. Oh, damn, she'd be thinking, as she's now having some more self-confidence issues, wondering if she could just ask him about it. With Asta then having passed and her wanting to try and see what would happen, as soon as she saw Yami raise his hand for Asta, along with the other captains, she would know that this was something up. So now she has a theory building about Asta being Yami's son, which would be another thing in the puzzle that makes Charlotte's love for Yami a bit more funny, since the two of them actually aren't related. Back to the present, however, we see Asta now choosing his room, and as he chooses his room and sits everything down, he begins writing his letter to Sister Lily, as well as everyone at the church and his mom. Also, wrote pretty much the same letter that he had in the original, with instead him telling them that all the captains had raised their hands for him, and Yuno too. We now see Elizabeth reading the letter. She smiles, thinking that she's so happy that her son had passed. With Asta now glad that he's made it into the Magical Knights squad, we can see everyone at Hodge Village happy for both Asta and Yuno. Now, back to the present, we see Asta. Just as the morning had started setting in, we see Asta outside the Black Bull's hideout training. We see him physically working on his physical strength, since those swords are no joke, but if he wants to keep up his physical build, gotta train every day, as he would remember from what his mom had told him about Bon, the 7 deadly sins Foxen agreed, and his dad, Meliodas, and how they used to fight each other. He'd be thinking about this while he's training, as he would then brush it aside when he would see someone new. As Asta was just taking a trip around the house to go and actually train, this would be when he and Magna would have actually run into Noel Silva. Noel, of course, being immediately patronizing towards Asta for him being a peasant, quotation mark, and talking about their differences in the royal status. Asta would know that he's a royal, but he hasn't told anyone about it, so he wouldn't really be that upset by this comment or anything at all, since it doesn't really matter to him. And also, his magical power is way higher than hers at this point, which is pretty obvious for anyone to see, as she would coldly reject him, with Noel still being Sundere Sundere. She would then arrogantly explain more about the royal family and the Clover Kingdom's houses, as well as saying that they're not equal as squad mates. With Asta showing no reaction to this at all, just like he would have in the original, Noelle would then get angry. She then tries to use a physical means to convey what she's talking about. She would send a water attack towards Asta, and it would miss and hit Magna just like it would have in the original. So Magna would have gotten pretty pissed off as well and demands an explanation, with Noelle now trying to figure out how to explain. Noelle, instead of apologizing though, would just say a snide comment implying that it was Magna's fault to get hit anyway. This would really piss Magna off, as he then demands to know why she's even in this squad to begin with. Noelle would say the same thing, as she wonders why too. She throws her robe away, with now her running off. We see Noelle training in the forest as she tries to work on trying to hone her magical power and blast waters against targets, with her missing every time. We see Noelle having flashbacks and memories of all the things her siblings had done to shun her, for her being a failure as a royal, they would say, eventually leading up to her brother not allowing her into the Silver Eagles. This would be when Noelle's magical power would go out of control, as she would begin to form a water sphere around her, causing massive destruction to the nearby area. We see Asta as well as several other of the Black Bulls members run out from the hideout, as we see this massive sphere of destruction ripping up the land, the trees, and getting close to their base. We can't let this stay here for long, Yami would say, but he couldn't do anything about it because if Yami tried to attack the sphere, he could risk hurting Noelle. Asta would raise his hand and offer to take it down, as Yami would nod, telling him to do it. Asta would power up so he can get up there, as we see him release both sides, as now Asta would charge up as we see him with his angelic wing. As Asta would fly into the air, we see him now beginning to speed towards the water, as he would then pull out the Demon Slayer's sword. With a single slash, we see Asta cut right through the water ball, as he then flies through to the other side. As the water ball has now been completely decimated by the anti-magic, Asta would then fall to the ground as well, as he flies downwards, as he attempts to catch Noelle before she hits the ground. Finral would save Noelle with a portal, and Asta would be relieved, as he would then also let himself go to the ground. As Asta is now on the ground, Noelle will be lying there with Yami complimenting Asta on his technique, saying that was a good job. Asta would rub the back of his head, saying it was no big deal as he thanks his captain. Noelle at this moment would be worried about everyone's beginning to scorn her just like her family had, and as she's sitting there waiting to be punished or have someone say something about her, this would be when everyone began complimenting her on her magical power. Asta saying that was crazy, saying that was a ton of magical energy she released just there, and that if he hadn't been there, she probably would have destroyed the entire base. Noelle was shocked as Asta was complimenting her for how much power she had, as well as the other members were doing so as well. This would be when Noelle would take their hand, as she would then put on the black robe of the Black Bulls uniform, and officially decide to stay with the Black Bulls. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Asta was Meliodas' son, make sure to slap that like button, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to the channel for more videos from me. I will see all of you guys in the next one. Goodbye.